Good evening again, YouTube. Good evening. Good evening. This is the guy, J. Crew, to you, coming to you once again. I should say one last time for Memorial Day weekend. Actually, on Memorial Day 2021. Do my final video for today with this little trilogy I got going on. And I want to end it by giving my review for the recently released Mortal Kombat movie that came out on April 23rd. I know that post says April 16th, but actually ended up coming out on April 23rd. And I think they pushed it back because on HBO Max, they still had the King Kong versus Godzilla movie out, and it was doing so well, they wanted to give it another week to keep going. And so either way, anywho, I want to give my review for the Mortal Kombat film. For anyone who saw, Mortal Kombat back in 1995, starring Talisa Soto as Katana and Robin Shaw as Liu Kang, the movie, while it had its flaws, it's always been seen as probably not only the best Mortal Kombat movie, but the best video game adaptation that was ever made. It was pretty faithful to the source material for the most part. They kind of pivoted and deviated away from Scorpion and Sub-Zero's rivalry, in that movie a little bit, and that disappointed a lot of people. And also, we didn't get a Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight, and that was 1995. But the movie, I think, made over $100 million, and it was still relatively respected by most fans. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is generally thought of as probably one of the worst films ever made, whether it's a video game adaptation or not. It was released 2 years later in 1997, and it was just flat out horrible. The acting was bad. Somehow the special effects in that particular film kind of took a step back from the original that was made in 1995. I don't know how that happened, but somehow it took a step back, and it just wasn't as good. It wasn't as well made. The story was horrible. Like I said, the acting was pretty bad. And so that movie did so poorly from both a fan standpoint and a money-making standpoint. Another Mortal Kombat film, in terms of a live-action version, wouldn't be released up until April 23rd of this year. And many people were even kind of iffy on this one because we really hadn't seen a trailer for Mortal Kombat up until early this year. Because you would think they would have released a trailer maybe late last year to build up some steam for it, but they didn't release a trailer until, what was it, February? I believe it was February when they released that trailer. And not only was the trailer well received by fans, a lot of people just in general, whether you like Mortal Kombat or not, probably garner interest in the film because the trailer was extremely well done. It gave you a synopsis of what the movie was going to be about, and just from an effect standpoint, us as fans, we kind of saw that. We were like, wow, the special effects actually look pretty good, and and the acting like it was going to be pretty decent. Unfortunately, that trailer, the trailer fervor that was created would not carry over into the actual release of the movie. The movie was released both in theaters and on HBO Max on April 23rd, 2021. And while it had its good points, it was a bit of a disappointment. And I want to talk about both the positives and the negatives of the film in this review. And I know for people who've already seen it, they probably echo my sentiments. But I know certain parts of my positives some people may not like, and that's just fine because we all have our own individual opinions. But let me go ahead and get with it. And I'm going to start out with the positives. The positives were that I thought the effects were good, for the film. When I saw the trailer and I saw how Goro was looking, and I saw, how, the effects, especially for the weapons that Sub-Zero was using, I was really excited about it. I said, wow, they really made that up to date in terms of the effects. It looks like something that's really along with modernized graphical technology in terms of what they were able to create. And going back to the effects with Sub-Zero, number one, Sub-Zero as a character basically was the ice cold Terminator in this film. He's one of the strongest aspects of this movie, if not the strongest aspect was Sub-Zero. From beginning to end, I like what they did with him. He was a guy who was just on a mission. He was on a mission to, as you saw, uh, you, you know, um, in the opening scene to just destroy Scorpion's clan. And not only did he accomplish, that feat, when he actually reappeared in the movie, and he was on the trail of that Cole Young character, which I'll get to in a minute. Uh, it really showcased just how stone cold he was and how determined he was to accomplish his mission. And with me as an individual, I always thought about that, even throughout the years since that last MK live action version film that came out in 1997. I always wondered to myself, what if they just made a film with Sub-Zero was like the main bad guy? I know some people thought maybe Shane Sun was maybe the main bad guy, but to me, that was really Sub-Zero in this movie. But how well he was utilized and how much stuff he had to do in terms of trying to accomplish his mission that Shane Sun sent him on, I thought he was just awesome, man. Just what he would do with those weapons. How he was just slicing and dicing his way, just through this film. It was just extremely well realized. Like even in the opening scene when he comes into Scorpion's compound and he meets up with he got to run into Scorpion's wife and I think one of Scorpion's children, and they sort of use that ice cold effect with his hands, and he uses that to eventually kill Scorpion's wife and his child, or at least one of his children rather. I think it just kind of shows you what they were looking to do with him, and it actually just looked really cool to see them bring that to life in the film. Also, with continuing on with Sub-Zero, as when he reappears as Sub-Zero, whereas him being behind in ancient Japan, but then he comes back and becomes Sub-Zero. When he has to sort of like get through Jax, I thought that was another awesomely choreographed fight between him and Jax, as you see in the commercial. And it shows you that how Scorpion utilized his weapons to sort of just kind of just cut through somebody. And then as the film climax at the end, was Sub-Zero fights Scorpion as he reappears and Cole Young. Again, you see him use that ice in a broad array of rays. I don't even think I said that right. A broad array of ways. I think it came out better that time. And in particular, when like you saw like in the Red Band trailer, when Sub-Zero was kind of formulating this little ice pick or hatchet or knife or sword, whatever you want to call that thing. That was pretty cool when he's getting ready to fight Scorpion in the gym that Cole trains in that's kind of iced over at the end. He kind of formulates that little ice pick or sword out of nowhere. And it just starts fighting Scorpion with it. Also, something else that you saw in the trailer when he was fighting Scorpion at the end, he cut Scorpion and the blood that squirts up from Scorpion, Sub-Zero kind of catches it, turns it into like a ice pick and stabs him and throws him. And I just thought that was awesome. It just looked really cool. And with that same scene when he takes Scorpion's blood, freezes it over, turns to that ice pick, and he stabs him with, then he throws him. For the eagle-eyed MK fans out there, that's like one of Sub-Zero's grapple moves from MK11 when he formulates that ice wall, then he throws Scorpion through it after he stabs him with the ice pick. So it was just really well realized what they did with Sub-Zero. I just love what they did with him throughout the film. And again, I always wondered what that would turn out like if they went in that direction. And to see it just come through as well as it did, that was just really cool. The second thing I like about the film is how well Kano turned out. And you could tell just from a writing standpoint, I don't think they meant for Kano to be as strong of a character as he was. But for the gentleman that played him, I believe his name is Josh Lawson, he did an excellent job. He was the comic relief of the film. And pretty much to me, from an acting standpoint, he was the strongest character in the film. He brought levity to every scene. He pretty much stole every scene he was in. And to be honest, just for me personally, just playing the game of Mortal Kombat and just watching the previous movies, Kano was never like a character I was into. Even when I was a child playing the video games, and even as a young adult, you never really got into Kano like that. He just wasn't that cool of a character in terms of his movesets and even his look. But Josh Lawson kind of turned me up a little, like, wow, he kind of made that character cool. He did much more with Kano than what they were probably looking to do with him from a writing standpoint. So I thought that was where I realized with him, with Kano, it was very much so a surprise. Another thing I liked about the film was some of the fight scenes. Not all of them, but some of them. The opening fight scene in the film that's opening within the first 10 minutes, that whole scene was just awesome. It's probably the best scene in the film, which is why they probably released it online like the same week before it came out on both HBO Max and the theaters. They fully released that. Well, they released maybe 3/4 of that opening scene, and it was just well shot. From the production design, from the fighting, and that whole scene was just awesome to look at. To see how Scorpion kind of just disembowels the Lin Kuei clan, except for B-Han, aka Sub-Zero. That was real cool. It's just to see that. And let me see. Another thing I liked about the film, and continue on with another fight scene, was the fight scene between Sonya, Kano, and Reptile. I thought that was well done. Cole Young was mixed up in there too, but I thought that was well done. Just to see how they utilize Reptile, and how he used his invincibility and his stealth to sort of infiltrate Sonya's hideout and having them fight it out like that. I thought that was pretty cool. And as I mentioned before, that ending fight scene between Cole Young, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion, that whole scene was pretty cool. I thought that was well realized. And they do a lot of the moves from the games, and then when Sub-Zero fought Scorpion in that ending fight scene, and so that was pretty cool. To see how that turned out. I like how they show Scorpion finishing Sub-Zero with his with his fatality of just using that fire breath and just kind of just frying his ass. I thought that was pretty cool. And so the fight scene, some of the fight scenes were cool, and those were the positives I would think I would take from the film. Well, let me add in one more before I move on. One last positive that I like what they tried to do with Cole Young from a story standpoint. So many years had gone by from the last Mortal Kombat film. I think they tried to throw a curveball in there with the Cole Young character, and I like the idea of them trying to do it. What we saw in terms of how it turned out was a whole nother mess that it kind of brought the movie down. But I like the idea of them putting a curveball in there because I think it will make people want to come and see how it turned out. Which leads me to the weaknesses of the film. They sort of brought it down to being not such a good film. The character Cole Young. Again, I thought it was a good idea to try to throw us a curveball, but with the actor that they picked to play him, and with how it turned out from a story standpoint, it just was pretty horrible. It was not well realized at all. With the actor that they picked to play Cole Young, he just could not act very well. Like when he would try to uh, show some emotion, from scene to scene, no matter what he was actually fighting or whether he was actually showing concern from his family or for his family. It just didn't turn out too well. He just couldn't really. It was like this film was too big for him, and I just thought that was very, very disappointing to see how poorly he just could not carry this film. Because again, he was the key element. Because most people were expecting the point of view character in terms of giving the fan or the viewer point of view, I should say, to be maybe Liu Kang or Johnny Cage or something like that, in terms of somebody who's kind of figuring out what's going on. But then they picked a made up character to be the point of view character. He was just extremely, extremely weak. And it was just sad to see, because I thought the idea of him was cool, but what turned out, from the filmmaking standpoint, was pretty horrible. Also, with Cole Young, I don't think with how things happen with this story, he himself didn't earn what he came to learn, like as a character. And what I mean by that is that a lot of stuff he just kind of finds out when conveniently from Raiden as he's going through the film. Because at first, as you see in the trailer, he's having this vision of this being that we later learn to be Scorpion. Like at the beginning of the film, he starts having these visions, but he really doesn't figure too much out about it on his own. So to me, he did not earn learning about his background at all. It is kind of like he kind of has these visions. He goes to the Sky Temple to go train with Kung Lao and Liu Kang and the other fighters that he's with in the film. And Raiden just kind of tells him what's going on. So it wasn't well realized at all. You didn't feel like he earned that as a character. Like he didn't figure it out on his own. He was just told it at some point. So, it's not like he wasn't putting pieces of the puzzle together. And so to me, that just signifies just bad writing, with the fact that he just couldn't figure it out as he went along in the film. So along with the bad acting, you just didn't care for the character of Cole Young. Again, I like the idea of them trying to do something different, but it just was horribly realized. It just did not go over too well. And so that was a weakness. Another weakness in the film from a characterization standpoint was Shang Tsung. I thought the actor was okay, but he was not menacing at all. He said like he was just another guy they put like in a bad wig and some clothes on, and they just threw him in the film. He said he was just like generic bad guy number one. Let's go in and just kill everybody and just kind of like win the tournament that way by eliminating Earth's warriors. But he wasn't menacing at all. It just seemed like he just kind of was kind of spitting out generic bad guy dialogue at times, and he was nowhere near the actor that played Shang Tsung in the 1995 version. And I'm probably gonna butcher this dude's name, but the guy that was Shang Tsung in the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, Kerry Haruki Tagawa. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. That was probably his signature role. But this gentleman that plays him in this film, he's nowhere near that. And it was a definite weak point. It's like you weren't intimidated by him. He didn't really blow you away with anything he did. He was just generic bad guy number 47, as far as I was concerned. And see, another weakness about the film, the editing. The editing was just pretty horrible. I've seen this from other reviewers in terms of them saying their opinion on this movie on YouTube. The editing just was not good. One of the worst spots in the film where the editing was just horrible is when they kind of do a montage of all the end fights. Like there's a fight that's supposed to be going on between Jax and Raiko being one of the generals of Outworld, like in that pit arena. I believe that they were in the pit. Jax will be fighting Raiko. Cole Young's will be fighting Melina. Liu Kang is supposed to be fighting Cabal. And they just kind of just edit all that together. And I think, yeah, that's right. Sonya was also fighting Kano. Instead of just giving each fight its proper due and let you just watch the fight separately, they edit all of it together, and it kind of takes away from what you're seeing. Like, you can't really enjoy it. And speaking of the fighting in some of those scenes, and really throughout a good bit of the film, the editing of the fights in other ways was bad as well. When you're watching some of the fights, they have that quick cut crap going on where they're right, one character might be throwing a punch 1 second, and the next second he's throwing a kick, but they're changing the camera angle so quick you can't really enjoy the fight. It's almost like you're like, wow, they're changing angles so fast. It's kind of messing my enjoyment of the fight up. And so they didn't edit the fight very well at all. And, in some cases, like one case might be in the training sequence was Kung Lao was training with Cole Young. It's like every blow that's landed, they're changing the camera angle, and I just couldn't stand it. And you're watching, you're like, man, just stop doing it. It's annoying. Because I feel like while they were trying to be faithful to the game in terms of getting the character to do some of their moves, it's just the editing just severely takes away from them because they're changing the angle of the fight so fast. You see, another weakness of the film would be how they sort of like work their way through the story. One of the worst things I saw when they were kind of going through the story was that they were just some plot holes. As you saw, like in the trailer, Jax was fighting Sub-Zero. And right before he started to fight Sub-Zero, Jax basically had tracked down Cole Young, and he was trying to let Cole Young know what was going on. Like, this guy, this guy pretty much trying to kill you, this Sub-Zero guy. Like, in another way, he didn't explicitly say that, but he was trying to give Cole sort of like a synopsis of what's going on in some ways. Like, you've been chosen, Cole. You have this tattoo. I need to try to get you to somebody. And when they meet up, Sub-Zero shows up, and right before he starts to fight Sub-Zero, they have their little, they kind of get into that vehicle, and they drive away, but they kind of run into Sub-Zero. It's like Jax is trying to get Cole out of there so Sub-Zero won't kill him, but they run into Sub-Zero, and Jax says, hold up, I gotta go ahead and figure out how to take care of this guy on my own. And so he tells Cole Young, hey, go to this address in Gary, Indiana to meet up with Sonya Blade. And, I'll get back with you later. And so Jax fights Sub-Zero, and Sub-Zero pretty much destroys him. And to the point where, as you see in the trailer, he just sort of like, makes his arms burst in a bunch of cold particles, and a bunch of cold ice particles, rather, and just leaves Jax for dead. And so Cole, who's with his family, when Jax initially meets with him up, goes and drops his family off. Then he goes to meet up with Sonya at that address in Gary, Indiana. And when he gets there, Sonya's like, where's Jax? He hasn't checked in. Oh, Jax stayed behind the fight. And it's just kind of dropped from there. Like, you don't hear nothing else. Like, Sonya says nothing else about it. Like, we need to go find Jax. We need to hurry up and go find him. Cole says, well, he stayed behind the fight. And they just drop him. You're like, what kind of crap is that? Like, how in the world do you not check on your comrade? And what's even worse, there's a segment of the scene as the film moves on, where a segment of the film as the story moves along, where Sonya goes to Raiden's Temple of Light with Kano, and on their way out there, they just kind of happen to run into Jax. who was somehow discovered by Liu Kang. And you're watching this, you're like, can they explain this to me one more time? How did that happen again? It just didn't make any sense how it was sort of carried out. It didn't make any sense. And you just kind of like, they could have did way better than that. Like, they just happened to, Liu Kang just happened to know where Jax was when he was pretty much about to be killed and left for dead. He went to go get him, but then Sonya never checked on him. It just never made sense. It was horrible from a story standpoint. And so those were just the few things that just made this film fairly bad when it could have been really good. Because again, I thought they did try to do a lot of fan service in terms of the moves, the looks of the characters. I thought were great, and I think they pretty much tried to emulate what the video game showed in terms of the looks of the characters. But what the story was, was sort of plotted out. The character of Cole Young, who was played by the actor Louis Tan, it just was not good. It brought it down several levels. And it was just such a shame because I thought it was a good premise, as I said before, and the fact they were trying to do something different. And I applaud them for that. But it just was not executed well at all. And so it was very, very unfortunate. And, hopefully it'll make enough money to where they could do a sequel and they could try to redeem themselves. Because I thought they had some good ideas in terms of the looks of the movie. And with them trying to throw the curveball with the character of Cole Young, but it was just carried out so poorly, you just tended not to care for it at all. And so I don't really have a rating system other than to say that it was a disappointment for me personally. And hopefully, like I said, they'll have an opportunity to do another Mortal Kombat film where they can make up for, this in terms of how it turned out. It's a guy, J. Crew, to you. Give you my Mortal Kombat 2021 review. Please hit that like button. And we'll get back at it again in the coming days. I'll keep bringing you videos here on YouTube. Thank you for your attention. Y'all have a good day.